Anyway, it's go time, and the guy in the back's going to beat me up if we don't start this. So let's get on topic here. Good morning, everyone. I don't know why the 6 of you decided to come listen to my dumbass talk about this on the last day of the con, but welcome.
I'm interested in old shit.
Excellent, we're going to talk about that. So this is how to build a barbarian. Before we begin, some caveats we need to talk about here. First, this is your spoiler warning for the 100-year-old books, but bear that in mind. Second, if you're here for a D&D stats breakdown and what levels you take for what, no, this ain't for you. Both are redonkulously overpowered. Like, convince your DM to give you 24s and all the base stats, half the feats in the games, and like 10 bonus levels, and we might get close there. Otherwise, they're just Mary Sue's, man. There's no benefit in that. We're here to talk about the character traits and the more like philosophical how you run your character and how they approach life. Other key thing, kind of what we've been talking about here, the characters are not diverse. The principles we're going to talk about are. Key things like Tarzan's communal identity and trying to find that, Conan's relationship with women, which is not going the way any of you think it is. These are all written very much from the perspective of a cisgendered, heterosexual white male. I resemble that remark. But the principles behind them apply across the spectrum. And so take them how you will, fill in the requisite pronouns and backgrounds you need for your character here. And finally, we are only talking about the works by the original authors. First, we would be here forever if we were trying to do all the adaptations. Second, most of the adaptations are very shallow and not that interesting. The interesting stuff comes from the originals. What I'm trying to say with that is this guy, that ain't the guy. That's not who we're talking about. When I say Tarzan, we're talking about that guy. That's his little buddy Turk right there anyway, by the way, Turk Oz. He's about to die. Oh, and that, swinging through the trees thing he does. That's not him swinging through the trees. That's him standing on the corpse of his defeated enemy declaring victory, normally standing on their throat, let's be clear. Also, I need to break a lot of misconceptions here and ruin a lot of your days. Our girl Jane, she ain't English. She is American. The first novel, Tarzan of the Apes, ends with her living on her mother's farm in Wisconsin, which means, unfortunately, she probably sounded like a total hoser. Oh yeah, no, for sure, you betcha, don't you know. Anyway, what we're going to talk about here is first kind of history, what is a barbarian? We're all going to level set here. And then we're going to run through our two characters, their setting, their early lives, their equipment they use, their motivations in life, their personal relationships, how they relate to civilization, both civilized versus barbarian sides, and how to be an authority and how they work with that. And then finally, how to challenge them. And the way this is going to go is I'm going to talk about each of these characters in turn and kind of how they approach this and show how this is different from the barbarian stereotype and tropes you know. And then at the end, I'm going to ask a bunch of rhetorical questions that are for you to ponder on your specific character of how does this apply? How do I want to use this? And because I am a kind and generous panelist, each of those question slides will include a picture of my dog. You're welcome. All right, so first, what is a barbarian? And to answer this, we got to go back in time. A little further back. A little more on that. Not quite. There we go. All right, this goes all the way back to the Epic of Gilgamesh, and this really starts with Enkidu the wild... God damn it. Weebs! Enkidu the wild man. There we go. Who was a semi-divine being who grew up outside human contact in the wild, was brought into civilization by love of a specific woman, and was a powerful, brave, loyal companion to Gilgamesh through the Epic of Gilgamesh. This sounds like Tarzan. Yeah, this is where the wild man trope kind of comes from. And by kind of, I mean it is. From there, our next real instance here is the Mycenaean Greek, where we have this word shows up, paparo. And if I have fans here of Linear B in really old languages, that's what it looks like in Linear B. Linear A, we still don't know how to translate, sorry. Paparo is a word, it's an antonym of the word polites, and polites means citizen, specifically like citizen of here. So really it's a polites is someone who's from here, a paparo is someone who is not from here. You fast forward through the catastrophe of 1200 BC to the classic Greek, we all know Athens, Sparta, Thebes, blah, 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 blah. And paparo becomes barbaros, which then becomes the English word barbarian. And it still generally has the same meaning, except the Athenians, because they're the Athenians. Everyone pretend to be shocked that the Athenians are arrogant and think they're better than everyone else. But otherwise, barbaros, barbarian, just means not from here. And this word would be used to describe people from like Egypt, Phoenicia, Persia, other countries that were older, more technologically advanced, more culturally advanced, more sophisticated, better established than the Greeks. It didn't mean those hairy guys across the hills. That was the Romans used it that way. It just meant someone not from here. Fast way forward, you get to 1858, the Treaty of Tientsin between the British Empire and the Qing Dynasty of China, at the end of the First Opium War. One of the provisions of this treaty is that the Chinese are no longer allowed to refer to the British as barbarians in official correspondence. Key point here, both sides thought the others were barbaric. They're not from here, they're different, their ways are weird. What we get from all this, and the way we need to look at this going forward, is barbarian just means a cultural outsider. It just means someone who's not from here. So things to ponder on this. Where does your character come from? How alien are they from the society around them? They grow up with a different language, different lineage, different homeland. How well known are they? Is it, hey, it's the guys across the river? Is it, oh wow, really, that place exists? I thought that was a myth. Or is it, never heard of it, no idea what this is? Are they more technologically primitive than the society they're around? Again, Qing China in the 1850s, very technologically primitive, versus the British who sailed halfway across the world to get there, still thought the Brits were barbarians. It doesn't mean that you're the more primitive one, it just means you're not from there. So which side has better technology? Do both sides consider the other to be barbaric? Are they both looking at each other's side-eye, or is this a one-way street? Seen here, Frodo enjoying society at the dog park with his dog cousin Teddy. All right, let's get to the settings here. Let's start with Tarzan. So these books are set, ostensibly, from 1888 to 1944. I say ostensibly because the timeline gets kind of wibbly-wobbly in there. Jack, his son, goes from being an infant to being about 20 in the span of about 6 years chronologically. It gets weird. It's mostly Africa, theoretically, in the real world. Except stuff starts to get weird as the novels go on. There's 26 Tarzan novels. They get very Adventure of the Week, and they get really fun. Like the time he goes to the center of the Hollow Earth and fights armies of psychic dragons with gorillas. It's great. And other times, like, say, when he finds the Lost Valley of Romans who still think the Roman Empire is going, the other Lost Valley of Crusaders who still think the Crusades are going on, the Ant-Men, who are 18 inches tall and live in giant hive communities and shrink them down to go hang out with them. And my favorite, Pauludrun, the giant city in the middle of a massive impenetrable swamp where white Australopithecines are constantly at war with black Australopithecines, and they're all riding carnivorous triceratopses. And there's stegosauruses that can fly. These things happen. It gets a little funky. Conan grows up in the Hyborian era, which is a mythological prehistory between the fall of Atlantis and the rise of Sumeria. Robert Howard was a history nerd, but he lived in Podunk Nowheresville, Texas, didn't have access to a lot of research resources, so he just kind of went off his own memory and made up his own era so no one could fact check him on it and go, actually, those dates are wrong. He's like, I'm just going to make it up. But it all has very clear historical parallels. When the country of Iranistan shows up, you will be shooketh to learn that that's an analogy for Iran. Aquilonia is Rome, Corinth is Greece, Stygia is Egypt, Vendaya is India, the Hyrcanians are the Mongolians, etc., 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 etc. And the thing takes place from Europe to Africa to Mongolia, all over the place. That's a rough map of what it looks like. Again, it's a lost era of Earth. And these things take place, so here, 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 and here. To quote Johnny Cash, he's been everywhere, man. Conan gets around. And that's going to become important later. Keep that in mind. And while he's big man strong, big man swings sword, there's magic, there's monsters, there's Lovecraftian horrors. Robert Howard and H.P. Lovecraft were friends. They traded notes. Conan fights Shoggoths on a regular basis. There's aliens from beyond the veil of time and space. There's dragons. It all gets fun. So let's get into how these characters actually work. And think about how you understand barbarians and how those characters normally play out as I lay these characters out to you. So Tarzan, by birth, is an English nobleman. His birth name is John Clayton Viscount Greystoke. He is a peer of the realm. He is a noble. He was raised by the great apes, the tribe of Kerchak, and he knows he's not like them. He has no idea what he is. He just knows he's not like everyone else around him. And this sense of cultural and biological isolation is pervasive through the first novel, most of the second, and the sixth novel, because the sixth is a collection of short stories set in his youth. And it's basically 2.5 books of him running around playing Are You My Mommy? Like trying to find out where does he belong in the world. It's like, I know I'm not like the apes who raised me. I know I'm not like the gorillas, which, by the way, the apes and gorillas are mortal enemies. He eventually finds the African natives, and he's like, well, they look more like me, but they're still not the same. I know I'm not them. What am I? Who am I? Where do I belong here? In contrast to everything you've seen, he does not talk like Yoda. He is very articulate. He is very eloquent. He's just very taciturn. He hates idle conversation with a passion. But he speaks on appropriations bills in the House of Lords eventually. Like, he can talk, he just doesn't like to. He's very stoic. He's very puritanical. He has his set rule of how things should go, his law of the jungle that he doesn't deviate from and expects everyone else to follow. And boy, howdy, does he have a dry sense of humor. There's a moment in Tarzan and the Castaways where he's been captured with a bunch of other hoity-toity white people dumbasses. And the one little old lady is terrified that he must be a cannibal. So he starts loudly complaining about he's eating whatever it is, a buffalo or something. It's like how this Swede doesn't taste as good as the Venezuelan they gave him last week just to spin her up and piss her off. In Tarzan and the Lion Man, he comes to America and he gets cast as an extra in a movie about Tarzan. They don't know who he is. They just know he's this big, strong guy. He's like, yeah, he'll be great. Make him the cowardly hunter, and Tarzan will come save him. And Tarzan just goes, sure, I'm in. Let's do this. First, this probably doesn't sound like most barbarians you've heard about before. Second, the astute fans of Polish fantasy novels will note I'm basically describing Geralt of Rivia here. Geralt's a barbarian. He is a cultural outsider in a society that doesn't understand him. Now let's contrast this with my man Conan. Conan is a Cimmerian. And in the fictional history here, the way this goes is Atlantis falls, the survivors found Cimmeria, and then after more geologic upheaval, Cimmeria becomes Scotland. I can see it. This is a reasonable progression, right? It makes sense. We don't know a lot about his early life. Basically nothing. We know his dad was a blacksmith. We know he was born on a battlefield. We know he grew up very poor, scrounging for food, fighting wolves for scraps and carrion. And by his own admission, at age 14, he helped storm an Aquilonian fort with his tribesmen and supposedly already had a great reputation as a warrior. And that's it. I've told you everything we know about the youth of Conan. We don't know. We don't know why he left. We know it was very hard and violent. We don't know why he left Cimmeria. We don't know why he doesn't go back. I don't know. Never comes up. He is your stereotypical big, loud Viking type, brash, crass, overbearing. He does not believe in any rules, including his own. He loves fart jokes and belching. He is just a happy-go-lucky guy. Things to ponder on this. How far has your barbarian traveled in their life? How have those travels changed them? They have been different places. They have seen different things. What effect has that had on them? How far do you want them to go? Are they trying to find a place to settle down, or are they just wandering to find things? Tarzan is just trying to find home. We'll talk about that more later. Conan is just going where he goes. Do they want to end up where they are, or did circumstances take him there? Conan goes where he wants. Tarzan didn't want his parents' ship to have a mutiny and get stranded on the coast of Africa. It just happened. How much do we know about their life? Which is how much is known publicly. How much do you, the player /DM/author / game dev, whatever, how much do you know versus what the person experiencing it knows versus how much the character knows. How do they feel about the society around them? Do they want to integrate into it and they're just trying to figure out how to make this work? Or are they saying, you're stupid, I don't care? How much are they going to integrate anyway just by exposure and, wearing down of rough edges? And did they choose the violent life or did the violent life choose them? And Conan could have settled down. He chose not to. He likes swinging his sword. Tarzan mostly does, and he's forced by circumstance to keep being violent. Here is Frodo pondering when we're going to get to the dog park, because he would really like to go play around. Right, motivations here. Tarzan, his motivation, long term, he wants to hang out with Jane. That's all he wants. Sit at home with his wife. He's a simple man. Short term, this is going to get nuanced. Stay with me. Get done with whatever he's dealing with so he can get back to hanging out with Jane. Every novel, it's something comes up, either some unfortunate circumstance. In Tarzan and the Ant-Men, it's he decided to buy a plane and fly it around because he's a nobleman, he's got more money than God, why not? And he crashes the stupid thing and gets captured by the Ant-Men, and now he has to deal with this to get home. In other ones, it's someone comes to, one of his friends comes, hey man, I need your help, I've got a problem. And so Tarzan goes to help him, and I need to finish helping my friend so I can get back to hanging out with Jane. That's all he wants. It's his sole goal in life is just sit at home and chillax with his wife. Conan, long term, he wants to be a king. He wants to become a king by his own hand. Short term, hold on here, things are about to get weird, because we need to talk about character growth. So young Conan is here for adventure time. He wants a good fight. He wants to get all the loot. He wants to have himself a big old feast with all the food and all the ale. And then he wants to spend whatever's left on all the wenches he can find. And then once this is done, start the cycle again, go find another fight, get more loot, etc., etc., etc. It's all he wants. He's here for the hedonism in life. And he really doesn't care who it's for, against, does not matter. In my 40K quad chart here of how people think about violence, he's the orc. Fight is fight. He just likes swinging his sword, and if there's money in it, he's in. As he gets older, as he gets more mature, he starts to get a goal in life and he starts to settle down. Black Colossus is really the one that puts the thought in his head of having a goal and trying to become a king. Where his goal now is lead men, get loot. He wants power. He wants to learn how to command larger units, going from being a small mercenary captain to a larger, to a general, to etc., on his road to becoming a king. Oh, by the way, this guy from a landlocked hill country becomes king of the pirates at least 4 separate distinct times, possibly 6, depending on how you slice up the chronology. Barbarians can go weird places and do weird things. He ends up on boats a lot. And there's a lot of times where he's subverting command there, where he just comes on board. Like, everyone's seen Ocean's 11, or Ocean's 12 rather, where Danny Ocean says, look, I know all the guys you'd send after me, they like me more than they like you. Yeah, Conan shows up on the boat, gets all the crew to like him more than the captain, and then throws the captain over the side and says, I'm captain now, and everyone goes, cool, we're in, let's do it. And he just runs around and, stab people, get money. We'll talk more about Valeera in a minute. She's great. But other key thing here, he still really doesn't care who he's fighting for or against. As long as there's more lessons for him in it, is another step on his road to becoming a king, he's down for whatever. Later in life, Conan does become a king, and he just wants to be a good king. He would smack your head open with a sword for saying it, but he actually gets pretty domesticated. Where he stops caring about his own advantage and his own pleasure, and he really honestly cares about the people of his kingdom and taking care of them. And in, I want to say it's Phoenix on Sword, he's talking with his vizier and lamenting the fact that trying to be a king and manage the kingdom and do all this means he hasn't gotten to hit anyone with his sword in forever, and this sucks. I just want to go hit people with my sword again. He's a sad Conan. Sad orc, doesn't get to bonk people. I know, right? So things to ponder on this. What are your barbarians' goals in life? Oh, by the way, there's differences here. What are their short-term goals? What are their long-term goals? How do these mesh together, or do they, or is there a big change along the line here? Do these change over time? What are they going to do if their goals are in conflict? This comes up mostly for Conan, as normally save the loot or save the girl. Shocking, he always saves the girl. Who could possibly imagine a pulp, magazine person trying to save the girl? Simply doesn't compute. But how do they think through this? What's their calculus on this? In this case, Frodo's goal is he would like to go to bed now, please. And he would like me to understand that. Let's talk weapons here. Tarzan, he sometimes has a bow and a spear. Normally he gets them at the start of the book and then never uses them again, let's be real. He's almost always got his dad's knife, and that's very important in the first book when that happens, but it's his second most common things using a knife. But most common, the key thing that defines Tarzan as a warrior is a rope. The way the majority of things die across 26 Tarzan novels is Tarzan gets in the tree above his target, drops a noose around their neck, brings them up, and either snaps the neck or knifes them in the heart. The rope is his default weapon. It's not what you would think, and it's not typical. Ponder that on your character. Do they have to use the standard things, or can they have something weird that speaks to where they come from and what they do? Conan, you're going to be shocked on this. Big man strong, big man swings sword. That's not quite right. Let's try it again. Big man strong, big man swings sword. Look, Conan is not normally naked, despite what the movies tell you. He's actually normally in full plate armor, which is black. And he carries a sword so big that back to Black Colossus, Princess Yasmela is looking at this sword, wondering if she could even lift it. Meanwhile, he's casually swinging the thing around one-handed. Guts draws a lot from Conan in his character design. But he does also occasionally use two swords. Red Nails is the one where he primarily dual wields. Every now and then he'll use a bow. Queen of the Black Coast is the best instance of that. Beyond the Black River, chapter 1 or 2, I forget which, is called Conan Loses His Axe. He's polyamorous. He'll use anything. He knows how to kill you with whatever's going on. Because if all else fails, much like a JoJo and protagonist, he's made of punch. He will just hit things. So things to think about this. You'll be shook at to learn. What weapon does your barbarian use? But more to the point, why do they use that weapon? Is this something from the local area that they're trying to integrate with? And that's just what the people there use, so it's what he uses. Is it something from back home that speaks to their homeland, the cultural differences of where they came from versus where they are? Is it something from in between where it's a holdover they found on their journeys and this gets into their backstory of, yeah, I'm from here, but then I went here and did this and they really like this weapon and I learned how to use it and now I'm in this third place. And it kind of speaks through to their journey. Same thing for armor. What are they using? Is it something from back home and it's really distinctive? Oh, by the way, things to ponder if you ever go back to Berserk Golden Age. The Band of the Hawk versus Guts, notice how different their armor looks. All the Band of the Hawk has the very curved, very ornately made silver armor. I mean, it's steel, but it looks silvery. Guts, not only is it black, it's much more rectangular, it's much bigger sections, and much more like visible straps and buckles. It's clearly not made by the same culture. Is it local armor that blend in? Because it's just, hey, it's what's here, it's what I can get. Is it nothing at all? Like your D&D barbarians that don't use armor? Or is it they really don't care? It's whatever they can grab at the time. Like armor's armor, I just want to stay alive here. In this case, Frodo uses armor of sweater because he's a prima dog and he doesn't like to be cold. And he likes his little squeaky monkey. All right, personal relationships here. So, Tarzan, again, this is going to get complicated, but his romantic relationships are Jane, and Jane. Who could have seen this coming, right? And then supporting, there's occasional people who show up again. Lieutenant Arnaud shows up in about half a dozen novels. Muviro, the chief of the Waziri tribe that Tarzan becomes king of, in the back half, he's in basically every novel, and he's one of the main supporting characters. And then there's two antagonists, Rokov and Pulvich, that are the main antagonistic force across novels 2, 3, and 4. And after that, it all becomes very adventure of the week. So Lieutenant Arnaud, Mervino, and then Rokov and Pulvich. There's only a picture of one, because only one of them shows up in the Disney show. Sorry. They're both Russians. They're Russians. We didn't like them then either. That's about it. Otherwise, across 26 novels, everyone else shows up once and is gone. Oh yeah, and he has a son as well. If that seems like an afterthought I deliberately forgot about, that's because I did, and he is. Jack is very much the Gohan of the Tarzan universe because he's set up to be the successor. He's going to take over for his dad and be the new guy and the new protagonist. And it just never happens. It's Jungle Beasts of Tarzan. He's the MacGuffin. Rokov and Paulvich steal him as an infant. Tarzan has to get him back. Son of Tarzan, same thing happens again, except now he's about 10, and it's following him around, and he adventures through the jungles for about 6 years until his dad finds him again. And then after that, for the remaining 23 novels, in Tarzan the Terrible, the mysterious stranger who it keeps cutting to occasionally is shown on literally the last page to have been Jack all along. The first scene of Tarzan and the Ant-Man as Tarzan is getting ready to fly, he's playing for the first time. Jack's there to say, Dad, are you sure this is a good idea? It'll be fine. What could go wrong? And then his existence is mentioned in Tarzan and the Foreign Legion. And that's it. He's Gohan. He shows up, he's a big deal, he doesn't go anywhere. Conan, primarily his romantic relationships are Bond girls. There's a new one every book. There's some girl, they get in pickles together. Conan ends up saving him, or she ends up helping him. They ride off into the sunset together. Next story starts, and she's never heard from again. With a couple actual really important relationships. The first is Belit, the titular Queen of the Black Coast, from the story Queen of the Black Coast, who Conan really did love her, and she really did love him. She is the undisputed pirate queen of the universe, and she finds Conan. They're fighting each other, and she goes, you, get naked, get in my bed. He goes, all right. And they adventure together through all of it. And they really, aside from the fact that they're pillaging and plundering and destroying everything, they really have a loving relationship. They do really deeply care about each other. And towards the end of the story, again, you got your spoiler warning, when she dies, oh boy, howdy does Conan go to town. Calls out the literal gods and sitting on top of a pyramid I'm dying or you're dying, but one of us is not making it out here alive because you killed Billy. It's great. The other one is Queen Yasmina, not to be confused with Princess Yasmela. He reused names. Go with me on this. Who is the not empress of not India. That's how they meet. It's great. She has a bunch of Conan's chiefs prisoner. Conan sneaks in and kidnaps her because he's going to do a swap. I get my 7 dudes back. You get your empress back. We're cool here. Wizards intervene. Conan takes offense. And by the end, they have to part ways. And it's a really touching thing of him being like, come with me, stay with me. And her going, I can't, dude, I'm the empress. I have to take care of my empire. Come stay with me. And he's like, I can't. I'm a hairy, hill man. Your laws won't let us be together. They're both just like, shit, this sucks. And they part ways, and it's actually really well written. Supporting characters, yeah, there aren't any. No one shows up across multiple books. The minstrel Ronaldo shows up in, I forget, shit. It's one of those that was only half written, one of the early ones. He's a character. And then in Phoenix on the Sword, again, when Conan is talking to his vizier about how much it sucks he hasn't gotten to swing a sword lately, he says, hey, remember the time I killed that Ronaldo guy? That was great. But that's the closest anyone comes to showing up in more than one Conan story other than Conan himself. So things to ponder on this. What are your barbarians' romantic interests here? And how do they approach this? Your character and their romantic interest come from different cultural backgrounds and different expectations of how relationships will work. How is this handled? Are they approaching it where they're adapting to the ways of the locals, which is what Tarzan does? He puts up with being an English lord and living in England and doing all the civilized people stuff solely because it makes Jane happy and she likes living in England. Otherwise, he'd be back in Africa swinging through the trees. Or is it more Conan-like, where it's like, nope, we're doing things my way because I said so. They have long-term relationships here that develop over time. If so, how do they handle their cultural differences here and how this goes? Tant Darno and Tarzan have a very long relationship as friends there, and the way they adapt to each other gets kind of interesting. They travel together, or is it just they cross paths occasionally? You know, like Dandelion and Geralt, where they just every now and then come across each other, and it's like, all right, I guess we're doing this again. In this case, Frodo is crossing paths with Oliver, his kitty friend. Yeah, they're adorable together. All right, let's talk relationship to civilization here. First, the idea of being civilized versus being a barbarian. Tarzan is a split personality. At any given moment in time, he is either John Clayton, Viscount Greystoke, member of the House of Lords, peer of the realm, or he is Tarzan of the Apes, king of the jungle. Never the two shall meet. The change can happen at the drop of a hat, such as when Rockoff hires some guys to try to mug him in an alley because they just see this guy in a suit walking through the street at night, and they find out the hard way who they're dealing with. But it's never a mix of the two. It's one or the other. Conan, by contrast, has a very gradual development through this. He's molded over time, where he starts out, doesn't understand civilization, doesn't understand the world